Hello, everybody. I'm George Williams. I'm the Next Search Catalog Coordinator at Northeast Kansas Library System in Lawrence, Kansas.
I'm Christopher Brannon with the Coeur d'Alene Public Library and the Cooperative Information Network.
Today, we're going to be talking about clubs, patron clubs and patron lists. And if you've never used them before, it seems kind of weird that we've got lists and clubs because they kind of do the same thing, but they kind of don't do the same thing. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how to create a patron list and some of the different things you can do with them. And then Christopher will talk about clubs. And then we're going to follow up next week or 2 weeks from now with another video about one thing that I use lists for in particular for our school district. So we are sponsored by koha-US's Education Committee. We're a part of the Education Committee at koha-US. And you can find koha-US at koha-us.org. And there's a whole ton of stuff here on our webpage, including this video will come out just a week before KohaCon 22, which will happen right here in Lawrence, Kansas. And so we're excited about that. Everybody is excited about it here at Nichols, and we're also nervous about it because it's like 2 weeks away and we got a lot of stuff to do.
It's not often that we do an international conference on top of our regular conference, and so yeah, it's a big deal for us.
Yeah, and it's there's a lot to do, and man, there's just a lot to do. So it's not like I'm having sleepless nights or going through a bottle of Tums a week or anything like that, or Rolaids and lots of Pepto-Bismol. There's just a lot to do.
It's gonna be fun.
It'll be a lot of fun, but it's also a lot of work. So I look forward to it. Sounds like next year in 2023, the KohaCon will be in Helsinki. So I'm going to see what I can do to go to that, because I won't have to do any work if it's in Helsinki other than maybe learn Finnish, which sounds like a lot less work than getting ready for a concert in your hometown. So anyway, if you go to the Learn tab on koha-us.org and go down and click on video playlists, you'll see this is a link to all of our videos every other Thursday for the last couple of years. And then we've also got links here to Monday Minutes by Bywater Solutions and Deep Dive by Bywater Solutions, and there may be more video playlists coming soon. So,
and today's video actually will be the beginning of season 3.
Yeah,
so
this is the beginning of our 3rd year doing this. And it's been a lot of fun. I enjoy doing this a lot. It's something I look forward to at work. So let's actually we'll hop over to the koha-US demo site and patron lists. So to find lists, you can go to Tools and click on Patron Lists. And this is where the lists that already exist live. And from here, we could create a new list. We could just call this new list. And there's an option here when you create a list, you can say, is this a shared list or not? If it's a shared list, then everybody who has access to the lists tool can see this list and can mess around with it. And once you create a list, you can scan a card here, you can type a name, and it's going to give you some options of who to put into a list. You can also, there's an option here to add multiple people at once. So if you've got a whole bunch of card numbers in front of you, you can just scan the card numbers into this box. Or if you've run a report and it's given you a list of borrower numbers, borrower ID numbers, you can just copy that list of borrower numbers in there, just one ID per line or one barcode number per line. That way you can add a whole bunch of people to a list at once. And once the patrons are in here, though, that's where the fun begins, because you can do things with lists once you have people in them. So here's a list that I created like a half an hour ago. And I put about, no, that's not the right one. Here's the list I created about a half an hour ago. And I've just got a whole bunch of people named Bob that I stuck in here, 33 different entries. From the list module, you can add more people. You can select these people and remove them or merge them. That's one of the things you can do from the list is if I click on 2 of these, I can merge these 2 patrons that are on the list. So if you have a whole bunch of patrons that are all the same patron, you want to merge them. That's one way to do a multiple merge. And you tell Koha, which ones you want to merge and go through that process. Another thing that's an option that I think gets overlooked and that I use a bit here at Neckles is if you do a patron import, one of the options you have when you do a patron import is you can create a list based on the patrons you're importing in. So I use the import tool at the beginning of the school year for our school district. We have 5 schools that use Next Search Catalog, and we have 1 community college. And every year, well, for the school district, it's every August. I import all of their students in and add them to the system just through a batch function, just importing them all as a batch. For the community college, I do it 3 times a year at the beginning of each semester. But this gives you the option when you import those groups in to create a list out of them. And then that way you've got the patrons that you've imported all in one group, all in one list, which can be handy. If we go back to patron lists, one of the other things that lists are good for is instead of clicking on the list and opening it, there's this action button over here. So from here, I can add patrons, I can edit the list title, I can convert this from an unshared list to a shared list. But these right here are the 3 really useful ones. If I wanted to, I could delete all of these borrowers at once in a batch. So if you're doing any kind of batch editing, if you have a whole group of borrowers that you need to get out of the system, you can add them to a list and then delete them all at once. You can also batch edit everybody that's in a list. If I wanted to make a change to all of these people, like right now, their address is Esperance, Washington. If I wanted to, for whatever reason, change that to Spokane, I can, in just a few short clicks, I've just changed the city for all 33 of those patrons like that, just by using the batch edit. And I can get to that easily from the lists. And the other thing I can do from here, and this is what we'll do another video for because it's a little more in depth, I can print patron cards for all of these. If you're using the patron card creator, putting people into a list gives you the ability to make cards for everybody on that list in one batch. That takes a little bit of extra setup, so we'll do another video showing people how to do that, because I use that for the school district, for our 5 schools, to create not individual library cards, but to create a sheet of cards that the librarian can use. And so that's kind of the basics of lists. And so I'll turn it over to Christopher and he can talk about clubs and to tell you about the great things that you can do with clubs.
So clubs is a little different from patron lists, where patron lists is more about having some functionality behind it in manipulating things or being able to just do some batch modifications or deletions. The patron clubs is more of patron side of things for lists, for keeping track of people that want to be involved in things. And it's not just necessarily clubs. Our library will use clubs. We use clubs for newsletter signups, which works really well. You can find clubs in the same place. If you go into tools, it's right underneath patron lists. So you have patron clubs. And Patron Clubs is a little bit more complex to set up than lists. Lists is pretty straightforward, but with clubs, you have to create a template for clubs, and then you create the actual club. Reason for this is you may have several clubs that are structured the same way, and why redo the whole thing over and over and over when you can create a template that has that basic structure and then reuse that over and over. And so on our demo site, we have a club template already set up. So I'll take a look at that real quick. This one, they've given a name, and you can give a description if you want. You really don't need to, because it's not, I mean, you can for the staff purpose, but it's not seen by the patron. In here, you can define, in the template itself, you define whether or not you're going to allow public enrollment, meaning can they sign up for it on the OPAC. And so you can allow that public enrollment. You can also require a valid email address. If this is going to be something that you're going to use to communicate with people that are enrolled, particularly through email, then this is a good setting to set to make sure that if you want to be a part of this, I need your email address. So that setting is very important. That's you know, these elements that you're asking for are not part of public lists, and so you can ask specifically for several different things. In this particular template, you can set whether or not this template can be used by other libraries or all libraries. So you can have it set for just a library, or you can have it set for any of them. Club fields, you can add fields that you want to have information on. You can give it a name or a description. You can tie it in with an authorized value category if you want. You can have multiple fields, which is really handy. Let's see here, delete that. I'm not going to change this one. Enrollment fields. These fields will be used when enrolling a patron in a club based on this template. And this is similar. I'm not sure. George, do you know the difference between an enrollment field and a club field?
The club fields are information about the club, and the enrollment fields are information about the patron.
Okay.
So if you created this is a template for a book club. So if you wanted to have information about the club that would say, this is what the club is about, that's where you would put those kinds of variables.
Okay.
And then if the borrowers, if the people that are enrolling in the club, if you wanted to ask them questions about their enrollment in the club, that's where you put the enrollment fields.
All right. Thank you. I used clubs a few times, but not to the distinction where I understood the difference between those two. So thank you.
Sure.
So we have a template here, and there is a book and crafting club that's using that template. But basically, if you were to create a new club, you give it a name, a description, start date, end date, and you can limit this to a library as well if you wanted to, or just let all libraries use the club. So you can limit the template to specific libraries, or give all libraries access to that template. But then the individual clubs that you base off of templates, you can create for a specific library or for any library. So in this,
so this is where if you click on that new book club again, yeah, right there. If you had created any specialized fields for the club fields, they would appear in that list there.
okay.
Like the way that I've seen it used is, one of the club fields could be who on staff manages this club. Is it managed by the youth services director? Is it managed by the adult services librarian? Is it managed by a specific staff member? Those kinds of questions can
So
be questions.
If I understand correctly, the club details are more internal.
Yeah, exactly.
And okay, so yeah, so going back to that, anything that we're filling out specifically about the club when setting it up, we would add here. And
Yeah, anything in the template that's a club field is going to be, when you create a new club, you're going to see those club fields in the new
basically
club
staff
that you're
side.
creating. Yeah, totally.
Okay. So, and when I click on new club, I see book club.
That's because it's the only template you've got.
Correct. So the more templates I have, the more selections I can say I want to start a newsletter, or if I have a newsletter template, I can say a newsletter, and that newsletter template might be specific towards a newsletter scenario. So yeah, so we've got one club that's already set up. Let me edit it real quick here. So again, you can give it a name. A description is better here because this is what the public will see about the club. And you can specify start or end dates. You don't have to. If it's a limited time, this is a good option. You can do a start date and not have an end date. I think you can do the reverse as well. And you can specify a specific library or leave it open for everyone. And so now we have a club here that is available, and it's available to anyone in the koha-US library. I'm going to jump over to one of our patrons in our demo, and on their page, there's 4 tabs. There's a 4th tab here that says clubs. So if you don't have any clubs set up, this tab's not going to appear as far as I remember.
Right.
But if you have clubs available to the patron that's in that library, so if this was a club that was only available to another library, it wouldn't show up here. So this is showing that not signed up for any clubs, so that's what the 0 is, and the 1 means that there's 1 available to sign up on. So if you click on that tab, I can see the 1 that's available. You can click on enroll. This is an interesting thing because it's a 2-step enrollment process. You have to click on enroll, and then if there are questions.
Yeah, if you've set up any of those, enrollment fields, that's where you would see those.
So you'd fill out any of those if there were any, and then you would click finish enrollment. That's why it's a 2-step process, because there might be some things to fill out.
Right.
Otherwise, it just looks like this. You enroll and then finish enrollment. And so now I've enrolled Brenda here, and it shows what they're enrolled in and the date that they enrolled. And this was great for us when we were setting up newsletters, because we wanted to know when a person signed up, so that the person doing the newsletters could know, oh, this is a new sign up. I'll send them a welcome. So that piece of information was critical in our choosing the clubs for newsletter signups. And we wanted to be able to give them the option to sign up for multiple things. And so clubs allows you to do that. So you can sign up for as many or as few clubs as you want as a patron. And the other thing is we can create a report based off of this. Well, let me go back to here. So back to the tools where the clubs are. Now, if I refresh the screen, I can see there's 1 patron enrolled. I can look at the enrollments here and see 1 person signed up. I can see their card number and their name. Doesn't give me a lot of information here. It's not something that I can say, okay, well, now I'm going to turn this into a list and email everybody. I can't do that from here. It would be a nice feature down the road if they could tie this into patron lists. But for now, if I want to make use of this list, if I'm going to contact these people somehow, I would need to create a report based off of the clubs. And we're not going to go into all the detail today about that, but you can create a report based on the people that have signed up for a particular club and say, I want all those email addresses. And then you can take all those email addresses and place them in an email or whatever broadcast software you're using to send out information, your newsletters or mass mailings or whatever. You can insert those addresses in there and contact those people. You'll always have an up-to-date list, running a report based off of the club, and that way, each time you need to send something out, that you're getting the most current list, because as soon as they sign up, or as soon as they decide, oh, I don't want to be on this anymore, they can decline it. If you have the patron side of things enabled for that list, they can go in there and say, I don't want to be a part of this anymore. That list is instantaneous. So as soon as they enroll, or they I don't know if you can de-enroll, but decline enrollment, that list is updated. So when you grab that report and grab that information, you'll have the most up-to-date information. And that's really all there is.
That's what you're using the clubs for. I know there's one other important use, and I think the whole reason the clubs were created, I added 2 more people to the club while you were talking.
Oh, I think I know where you're going with this. Are you talking about holds?
Yeah. So the first reason that the clubs were created is the issue came up at one of the libraries. They said, we have a list of people, and all of those people, it was at a library where they maintained a list, like these are our James Patterson people. Every time there's a new James Patterson book, these 40 people want a hold put on it automatically. And so the issue was, isn't there a way Koha could do that for us? They couldn't do it. It can't be done with lists. So it's one of the big differences between lists and clubs. But I looked up Day of the Jackal here, and I'm going to click on holds. And if you have clubs enabled on your system, you'll see when you go to holds on a title, there's patrons and there's clubs. And so if we do a search for that club, Book and Crafting Club, pick up at koha-US and place a hold, there are 3 people in that club, and all 3 of those people now have a hold on that title. And the holds are placed randomly. So if you have a list with, like, I think some of the libraries that are using clubs, one of my libraries is using clubs. Osage City Library uses it, and they have some of their clubs have like 60 people in them. And so when they go to place a hold for a club, they don't want the same person to be at the top of that list of 60 every time. But Koha automatically scrambles them. It doesn't place them in the same order. It randomizes them when you place the hold. So that way, and they do exactly that. They have their James Patterson Club, they have their John Grisham Club, they have their Sue. Well, I don't think they have a Sue Grafton Club anymore because she's not writing new books. But all the different authors that they have, these people that are always want the brand new book by that author, they have a club for most of those authors. And in this way, even for just 3 authors, or for 3 patrons, that was so much faster than placing 3 separate holds. But when you've got like some of the lists that they have at Osage City, like 40, 60 people on them, I can't imagine. I would just want to pull my eyes out of my socket after like number 30. But placing 40 holds for one author for one new book, that this speeds that up so much. So that's the reason that clubs were created. And the way that you're using them is one of the best uses I can think of them too, because if you do have a mailing list and you want people to be able to sign up for that, create a club that people can sign up for on the OPAC, and they can join that list without they can join it and they can leave it without any intervention from you. And that's spectacular too. So
yeah. And it's not, it's not as straightforward, when you're using it for a newsletter, because you don't think, I want to sign up for a newsletter. Where do I go? Oh, I go to clubs. So,
the newsletter club.
yes, exactly. So, it's not as straightforward as I would like it to be, but yes, it does have a lot of functionality that we want with it. And, like I said, down the road, it would be kind of cool if it had some tie-in with Patron Lists. Like, okay, I can see all these enrollments, but that's all I can do is view the enrollments, or I can go to the individuals and sign them up or take them off. But wouldn't it be great if there was a way on the club to say, email this group, or on this club, modify this group somehow, or, it had some options to tie into the Patron Lists.
Yeah, that's the things that the Patron Lists cannot do is it doesn't track when a person was added to the list, or if or when a person is removed from the list. The clubs do that.
Yep.
The lists don't have a start date and an end date, like the enrollment date or how long the club lasts. The lists don't have anything like that. But then the clubs don't have things like batch modify all the members of the club. So lists and clubs are two different things that are doing two different things, but they have a lot of similarities.
And the Patron Lists, patrons don't have any knowledge that they're on a particular list. With clubs, they can see if they're a part of something, and given that functionality, they can take themselves off if they want. So yeah, one's more towards staff side and functionality, the other's more towards patron side and signing up. And as you said, there is a little bit of functionality with the holds. That one aspect is with the holds, like if they want to all be signed up for holds on a particular title or a new release or something like that, then yeah, that's great functionality there.
Yeah. So those are the differences between clubs and lists, and hopefully you can get some use out of this. And like I said, in our next video in 2 weeks, I'm going to do a demo of how we use lists at our school libraries. So we look forward to seeing you then. And as always, go to YouTube and leave comments. We try to read the comments as much as possible and respond to them, provided that they're not like scamming, we don't answer the comments from the Nigerian princes that are looking for brides. But we try to answer any of the other comments that we get that are Koha related. So go over there, subscribe, and like our videos, and leave comments, and ask questions. We'll try to answer.
Here's to a third successful season.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks a lot, everybody.
See ya.